and the problems of so many other entities in our Bahamas because we are believing that they should be the ones who are looking out for the best interest of our Bahamas. We look at the politicians, we look at the clergymen, we look at the even the business people. There are business people who refuse to talk about things that are happening in the country that's pertinent to the issues of the day because we look and we see what the IDB has been saying about this country, and we've got to pay these loans back, and these are big loans, $250 million, $550 million. We've got about maybe 27 weeks or something like that to pay these loans back. And here it is, we don't hear anything from the people who are making up this picture in our country, the politician. Uh, they talk about Mr. Wilson and Mr. Um, the gentleman who's in charge of Michael Akitas and James Smith. These are consultants, these are consultants in many ways that will help to garner support for the government and to say what is actually happening in our country. But we are stuck in the mud because the people are not being satisfied by even those business sector people. And of course, there's all the situations with the prices, the food store prices are way up there. Hardly anybody could afford them. So we want to talk about the state of affairs of our nation because right now we feel as if we're about to collapse in many ways, and no one is actually saying, this is what we're going to do. Here's our plan. This is the plan that we're going to do, and these are the things that we want you to be aware of as we are aiming to do them. Lady, gentlemen, how do we assess matters in today's environment? Considering the politics of it all, the economy, the business sector, the most importantly, the people's wish for a truly brand new day in the Bahamas. How would you assess matters of the state? I wonder if I can ask that question first and foremost to Mr. Paul Moss, because he's a noted fellow when it comes to the financial stuff in this country. He's been talking about all this banking and offshore banking and all that kind of stuff before. And he's been here on the show before, and he's been giving us some very, very good ideas. How do we assess matters of state, Mr. Paul Moss? We ask you that as we begin our show today.
So it's a pleasure to be here. I think certainly the assessment of matters of state really has to begin with looking at what is going on with the population, what the public is feeling, what they are going through.
With the population, because look at the population. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it really starts with the high inflation that we see in the country. I'm not sure, quite frankly, what can be done about that because it is something that has been transported here because we're a nation that imports most of what we consume, what we produce, or whatever we use in the
So you're
country.
saying we're at the mercy of these people who are, because we do the imports, and so we have to pay what they're
Yes,
talking
and
about.
so we have to really hope that what goes on in the United States, that they are able to get a grip of the inflation to try to bring some reduction to it so that when we import that as well.
Hmm.
Apart from that, the it takes the political entities to try to curb what is going on in the country. In other words, it's a government responsibility
Mhm.
to act in a way that could better the lives of the citizens of the country. We know that inflation is something that's out of their hands, but then there are things that they can do
There are things that they can do. This is what
to
people have been saying.
to assist the public in trying to get a hold of a better way of life because we know that in this country it's quite difficult. Many people are on a fixed income, but there are escalating costs. For example, BPL that has been
Very
troubling
true. Mhm.
the country that really eats into that fixed income. And if BPL takes away from that, it means then there's something else that's short on. And I think that that is a problem because we've been dealing with this thing now, BPL, for such a very long time. And it seems that no one really can get a hold of it or wants to fix it. There are many people in the country, many Bahamians who are leading companies now who have alternative ways to assist BPL, but then they can't get the help or assistance or even
That's another
the
battle.
conversation with the
Mhm.
government to try to ameliorate the situation.
Yeah. And so we're looking at some serious problems, particularly in problems, actually, because we're looking at, as you talk about the matter of state and all that, we look at the high prices, eh? High prices this, at the food stores, and we saw where Super Value is now projecting that they're looking at 30% increase down the road sometime in the month of September and all that kind of stuff. And so sometime in the month of December, they say that they're already in September. And then we're looking at the tax burdens pool, the tax burdens, eh? The economy as a whole. I mean, there are some things that we can do, and we would like to see the government move to do these things. And I don't know exactly what it is that can be done. I do know this, that the movers and shakers in the circles of the finance of this country have not been talking, not been sharing anything with the people. So we are basically lost as it is right now in the country. But let's look at the tax burdens and let's look at the economy and let's look at some things that we could perhaps see if we can get the government to jumpstart and look at some other things in another measure. What are your thoughts on this thing with high prices and the tax burdens and the economy?
Again, it's inflation that is dealing with the high prices. I think that with the tax burden that we the public face, it's something that I believe that it's a it's a novelty in the sense that I think for the first time in our country, the government is now awash with cash. They have now realizing returns that they never thought was in their imagination.
You mean this present government right now?
Yes, I think that.
They're washing cash.
Yes, I think that from they implemented VAT,
Mm-hmm.
VAT on every single thing.
Yeah, okay.
VAT has increased the revenue
I'm aware.
of the country.
I'm aware, but you
And
see,
so now the constraints that they used to be placed with in the past, where
that's no longer there.
that's no longer there.
Yeah, but listen to what they've been saying. Value-added tax is something that is not really going toward any kind of debt reduction or anything like that. I mean, we believe that that's what it should be. That's what it was then done for, so that we can lessen the burden on this national debt that we have. But it's not happening, and no one is actually knowing for sure what's happening to the income from that.
Do you know that the Lee Brothers song "What a Fool Believes"?
Yeah, I know. That's
Okay, all
what a
right.
fool believes.
What a
The
fool-
Doobie Brothers.
Right, what a fool believes,
Mhm.
because even though they said that the implementation of VAT was to reduce the deficit, you know, what a fool believes. Who believes that? If you believe
So
that,
what are they
then
doing with it?
well, they're spending it. They're spending it.
You mean they're spending on other things that the
Yes.
country needs, or they're spending it on?
Whatever. See, I believe in the country there is always an expense.
Yes.
Always an expense.
Yes.
For example, we know in many of our family islands that there are no ambulances or fire engines
Tell me
or
about it.
they're not those kinds of amenities.
Mhm.
But now the resources are there for them to go out there and make it happen.
Yes, but they're not doing that. And that's one of the reasons why people are so disillusioned. That's one of the reasons why people are saying, well, what's happening with us? It's like we're just going further and further away in an area of regress instead of trying to progress this country and make things better. You talked about the ambulance, right? On a side here, the ambulance stuff is something that I spoke about with Dr. Um, Davel the other day on this show, The Last Word. And he said that, they had some serious situation with the ambulance and all that kind of stuff and ground transportation. He went back to the House of Assembly, not to the House, but he went back and said among his colleagues that now they're going to do some things with ground transportation in the family of islands. That's what he said. So he said, no longer will we be able to go back on the back of trucks to get to the airport, to get to Nassau, to see a doctor, that kind of stuff. That's what he says. Now, I'm saying this. There is the ambulance thing that we need to deal with. That is germane to the problem. Everyone, especially in those far-flung family islands, Acklands and Crooked Island, they don't have anything like that. And they should be having that kind of stuff now. That's what happened. But nothing is happening for that. And we're still talking about these things after all these years of doing the last word on the radio. We've been here every Sunday talking about the last word, and we've been saying this thing over and over. Yet no one has actually moved on this particular direction to make sure that people are going to be serviced, especially those who are sick. And here it is, we're still right back at the same thing again. And that's why I'm saying, what is it that you see that we can actually do to let these people know that, look, we want to see action in this government. That's what we want to see, action, so that we can know that we're going somewhere. They talked about a new hospital. Okay, fine, that's fine. They talked about a new hospital. They said it's going to be down there on JFK Drive in that area. And we say, we welcome that. But there are other people who've been crying out for this thing for a little while, and the COI people have been on the horn so far that they cried out for it so much that they went and they got the Prime Minister and Dr. Darrow to go and look at the hospital at the present time, and they're saying that, look, we really got to do something with this place. So they've been cajoled into making something happen. There are all kinds of problems. And I'm just saying the state of affairs is not a good place to be right now because we don't seem to be on top of things, man. That's what I'm talking
Steve, if I may, I was jumping in the bits to getting getting on this part of the conversation
about.
where you're talking about inflation. Some of the reason for inflation has to do with external factors, but a lot of our inflation has to do with internal factors and some things that can be done to relieve it a little bit. The problem is we have lack of vision. We have economists, we have accountants in the government, but I'm shocked that some things that they are not doing that can be done. That's really causing a lot of the high prices that we're having. And Mr. Moss alluded to a part of it, but he did it on a personal level. A part of the big problem is electricity. The cost of electricity is extremely high. All right. The cost of electricity is high because of corruption, because the PLP and F&M own Focal, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, they transport the oil, they sell it to the government, and they also do generation now and sell generation of electricity to the government. That's one of the reasons the cost is so high. One of the biggest expenses in business right now is electricity. One of. And so if the electricity cost is high, when you go and buy your food at the food store, that increases the price of the food because Rupert Robert has to put the cost of electricity into the cost of the food. And everyone else who in business has to put that cost into their expenses. So guess who pays? So everyone, especially the poor people, pay because the cost of electricity is high when we should really be on solar. That's one thing that's going to cause
You
prices to
think
be able to
solar's
go
the
down.
answer?
Solar for power generation
Right.
is one answer that's going to bring the cost across the board down. All right, that's just one thing. The government needs to do what other countries do, and that is reduce taxes. Whenever you need to get a hold on inflation, come on. Well, either you increase interest rates in order to slow things down, but if you reduce taxes, you're still going to make a certain amount of money because you're going to get more volume. One of the reasons you buy less grocery now is because it costs too much. So the government is losing money because you're spending less because you don't have the money to spend because everything is so expensive. Reduce the VAT. All right, why not? If you have all this extra cash now, all of a sudden, reduce the VAT on the backs of the payment people. I'm not talking about what they did with the 2% and then increase it on bread basket items and everything you use every day. Take it back off bread basket items because what you did was increase the cost of food. All right, by doing that stuff we eat every day, stuff that the fast food places buy, etc. And so these are simple things that can be done. Reduce taxes on the people and now is going to cause more spending to happen in the economy, and it's going to be less on the businesses that are bringing things in. All right, they have a lot of expenses. Taxes, there's a major taxes on gasoline. Right, a lot of what you pay for your gas is just taxes. Reduce that. Okay, a lot of what you spend when you buy a plane ticket. Some business people actually travel. There's some business people, retail people who just jump on the plane, go to Miami, go to New York, buy the stuff, and come back. They pop the factor in the price of a ticket into their spending. But guess what? If you look at your Miami ticket, uh, the majority of the cost of your ticket is taxes that go into the government. And so these are examples, and there's much more of things that they can do to reduce what is going on and change the inflation that is going on in the country. And but they're not doing it. You know why? Because it doesn't benefit the government to reduce to reduce inflation, because right now they're getting more of that because everything is more expensive. If you are paying $1 for a carton of egg, you pay 10%, 10 cents. But if you're paying $3, you're paying 30 cents. The government gets more just because of inflation. And so that's one of the reasons it appears to me that they're not doing anything.
Talking about inflation and all that kind of stuff, and you're looking at the cost of this whole thing with value-added tax and the rest of it. I'm not satisfied yet. I've not heard anybody yet who can tell me that be satisfied because the government is doing something with the value-added tax money. It's going against the national debt, whatever. And I can feel good about that, but I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that from anyone. Now, I'm asking, what do you think is actually happening with this whole thing with value-added tax? Because people have been paying that value-added tax. At least I believe that they've been paying the value-added tax to the government. And so is it going into the consolidated fund? Is it going into a special fund that will deal with things like the escalating prices on this as far as the national debt is concerned? What is it going toward? Is they do have it as a special account, or they just put it all together in one big lump sum and say that's what we have and that's it? Because you're saying a surplus of money. You're talking about a lot of money. We are washed in money. We'd like to see some of this money happening for other things in this country to the point where we can see new parks and new playgrounds and new sporting equipment and that kind of stuff. That's what we want to see. We want to see new communities. We want to see things improve, but we're not saying that. We want to see ambulance care in the family violence. We want to see those kinds of things happen, but we're not saying that. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if you can talk about that, and I can ask that to Dr. Abby Jackson at this particular time because she's looking over at the governance of this particular administration and other administrations as we take a look at why we are in this state of affairs that we are now in.
I think it's pretty. Sorry, you asked me to. Oh, go ahead.
Good evening. Steve, as I listened to your introduction, I can safely say that I've traveled the world and seen quite a bit of countries. And part of my reason for this is I like to see how people live, what's happening,
Yes.
governance, and that sort of thing. And as you move around, I still say the Bahamas is probably one of the best and nicest places to live worldwide. Okay. And I can understand why a lot of foreigners flock here and get entrenched and don't want to leave. Okay. In terms of space, in terms of the way we live, our environment, far superior compared to a lot of places. However, I think for a small country like us, we live extravagant.
Okay.
Okay. And we see it with our government. All right.
Extravagant spending.
Yes,
extravagant
I
knowledge.
think a lot of money comes into our country. We
Mhm.
make a lot of money, but the way the money is managed by our extravagance, I think, is the problem. And we're seeing a lot of that now. We're seeing it with travel expenses. We're seeing
Not
it
being
with
responsible.
so many people who are getting jobs and contracts because of who they are or whatever. Even with the vehicles.
Wasteful spending.
Yes, we were seeing a lot of that when I was in Malaysia. And yes, the fact that we're an archipelagic country, okay, that means for the most part, New Providence has subsidized quite a few of the family islands. When I was in Bimini last summer or 2021, I was shocked to see the amount of economics that's happening in Bimini. Bimini is doing fine. They can't say Bimini is not making money. Bimini is doing well. In fact, Biminites they don't want work. And it's hard to find, for them to get employed because Bahamians don't want to go to work. They are importing so many foreigners to do the work over there. Abaco, from what I've told, is bouncing back and it's doing well. So you have a few of the family islands, and I'm sure Eleuthera, that are holding their own, okay? But for some of the smaller islands, the government, New Providence, has had to subsidize a lot when it's there. You're talking about ambulance and this and that. I don't understand why. I think it's San Salvador. what is the name of that resort that's back up and running there?
Cape,
The
South, what's it called now?
I know it, but not.
yeah, the one in San Salvador.
Yeah, I know
When
it's
when COVID came, they had to close because guess what? No healthcare facility to be able to manage and handle the situation down there. How is it that we're allowing foreign investment into our country, into these islands, but we're not making it mandatory that they need to invest in the overall healthcare
Yes,
of the
yes,
system?
yes.
You gotta have an ambulance. You gotta have healthcare
Well, that's what I've been
facilities.
saying all
And
along.
for me, that is something I don't understand. And we see it year after year. We see it with governments that, Club Med, yes, okay. A whole big organization had to close down because there was not a healthcare facility there for their people, but even our own people now, you may have had the government clinic. So, but a lot of these, Royal Caribbean is doing quite a bit in this country. A lot of these cruise companies, why is it that they're not being forced or encouraged to develop in these, the healthcare structure of our family of islands, okay? And when it comes to healthcare, though, and people don't like to hear it, healthcare is not cheap. Taxes may have to be implemented just for healthcare, Steve. We want all of these things, but somebody has to pay for it. And keep in mind, the government does not maintain a lot of their equipment.
No.
Okay?
Not
I'm in my
facilities.
private office, and every time I have to have it serviced, I have to fly somebody in. So you can imagine our country where we have these healthcare facilities in a lot of these islands. Okay, and I know of some where there's
Not very well
wasted
kept.
space.
Not
No,
very well
and
kept.
machinery there, but nobody knows how to use it.
Yeah.
Maintenance. So all of these are factors we have to consider and think about as a people. But I still think we live extravagant, especially as a country and especially in terms of our leadership. And this time around, we're just seeing it at
Well,
an all-time high. Fly in here, live in here. The amount of cars, the government vehicles we have on the streets.
My Lord.
And sometimes I say, well, why can't these vehicles be parked on the weekend? Is there some rule that, okay, if you work for the government, you're entitled to the vehicle, then you drive it wherever, however, whenever.
It used to be a rule, but now that doesn't exist. Everyone is driving their cars whenever they feel like for anything, and their families are driving their cars too. See, we have to have rules. There's got to be rules that we have to follow. You cannot be driving your car on the weekend and whatnot. You're supposed to have your own car. But we used to have a rule under Hubert Ingram that he says that you got to park this car on the side, and then come to work on Monday. But the point is this: everyone is doing their own thing these days because we are seemingly a people who have just run out of options. We don't. There's no rule. There's no rule. No. There's no. I said it wrong. There's no rules for us.
We don't
Our-
enforce the law.
Our people.
That's the issue with
our-
we don't enforce
no, my friend.
policies and we don't
Our
enforce the
people.
law.
Our people are just not interested in any kind of law-abiding stuff. That's what we are. We break the law every day because we want to drive any kind of how we want to overtake on. People are overtaking on the inside of cars. It's crazy. How is that happening? Because leadership is not evident. Leadership is not evident in this case at all, and because of that, there's no vision, and we don't have any focus as to what we really want to go and do. We've come up with some very good ideas here today, just talking about what has to happen in those family violence, so those small family islands are not doing so well. But here it is. Is anybody listening to that? Are they trying to get things set in that particular fashion to say, now, this is what we must do to bring up these other islands who are they're just not happening. There's nothing happening for those islands.
And then, Steve, manpower is a big asset that's needed and necessary.
Mhm.
A lot of times in the healthcare system, our own people don't want to go and work in these family islands, depending on where. And so we have to import foreigners, okay? When we bring them in, that's an added burden and extra cost on us. But, I think a lot of times we talk about local government and what it should be doing. And then I hear this talk also that, the monies that come into these local governments and the way it's mismanaged also, that's another thing. So the government has to have this general purse to help garnish or get a hold on the funds that's coming into the country. But people have to realize too and recognize that wherever you are in the Bahamas, you have to begin to think and do things to help develop your own island with the assistance of the government. So if monies are being paid into the back um, purse from these islands, the money should go to help develop basic infrastructure.
Yeah, but that's not happening. And I waiting on someone to tell me exactly what's going to happen with all this value-added tax money. But Paul, I mean, you have a good idea as to what's actually going on. But at the same time, I know that there are people who are just saying that well, maybe he's not going to say a number of things just because. But the point is this: we sit here and analyze what's going on because it's for the welfare of this country. We care about the welfare of this country. We care about the growth and development of this country. And so we must speak frank on these matters. And this is one of the reasons why we've assembled this team here today, just to make sure that we can be on top of things and we can lend our assistance for those who want to hear. And hopefully, this particular group of people will not be as bad as the other previous groups of people who just didn't listen. This is an opportune time now for the Prime Minister and his people to listen to what we are saying, because there are things that are really, really germane to what they want to really develop in this country. But if they don't listen, there's nothing we can do except bark at them and say, these are some things that you better start doing, because nothing is happening for this country. Paul, your thoughts?
Well, certainly, one of the things that I recall in the last year's budget, budget debate of this year, I think,
Mhm.
was when the Prime Minister indicated that 10% of the government revenue is going to be earmarked and allocated for family island development. And so
Yes, he did.
we need to see what that means and certainly where it will go. But certainly, I believe that at that time, I indicated that it was the right step because clearly the family islands are lacking.
Yes, they are. And we know
lacking
that.
tremendously.
Mhm.
And even though Abby spoke about the foreign investors who come to the country who are not essentially been made to buy into the general vision of the country, that is because there's no vision in the sense that
What about the National Development Plan? Are you saying that's not a vision for us?
what national development plan does not
Yeah,
exist.
I could ask that same question.
Does
What
not
national
exist.
development plan?
The
See, we got to be talking about these things if this is what's going to happen, There's nothing, there's no conversation on these kinds of things. That's something that's in limbo somewhere in back there.
But see,
It's not being talked about.
Steve, I realize with governments, they come in with their manifestos.
Yes,
Because you notice if somebody asks, well, what about this? That's not in our manifesto for this time around, So it seems like there's no pivoting. We're dealing with what in the manifesto because that's what you all elected us for. And so we have to get this done in the manifesto. But nobody's thinking, okay, but these are other major issues and concerns
They
that
should be
need to be
concerned,
addressed
yeah.
as a country.
Yeah.
So the National Development Plan, I can understand why that'll go out the window because then too, we've seen parties come in for 5 years, okay? They all seem to just have 5 years. Therefore, you're hearing this kind of talk with child, we only in for this, so we gotta get what we could get and do what we could do.
No, you're right about that.
And that's a major
You're
concern
right
now.
about that.
Nobody's being elected to say, I'm going to try and make a difference. And whether I get elected or not 5 years down the road,
See.
at least I've had an opportunity to sit at the table and try to make a difference.
Steve, I think she just answered the question of where the VAT money goes, and we have to look at this with a real understanding. The VAT money goes to the consolidated fund, of course, and then they find ways to give their cronies contracts to suck that money out of the consolidated fund. They don't do anything that they cannot personally benefit from, them and their cronies. That is the problem with our country. If they can't get the benefit from that, that is not going to be done. To be done. There's no reason for us to need Club Med to buy an ambulance. We can buy ambulances. They squander the money on what they want. When Minister wanted to buy the hotel, he went and he bought $60 million on a hotel.
I have to interject right there. If you are going to set up shop in an island that's crucial for you and your workers and tourists and people you're bringing in, you must buy into the system that, okay, We need to have a healthcare facility that's up, running, and manageable. We need to have ambulance. It's not we need to do it. These need to make investments into our countries
Absolutely,
just the
because-
same. All they're doing is making money and sending it out of the country.
Hold on, wait. She interrupted me without understanding what I'm saying. This is why I'm saying that we don't need the buy-in. It would be good if they are good corporate citizens and they contribute, but we don't have to depend or force them to do so. We don't have to force them to do so. Let me tell you what happens when a Club Med moves to a family island. Guess what happens? The government taxes every room. All right, the government is in partnership with them because a part of the room fee goes to them and a part goes to the government. The government should be able to manage it properly and say, okay, a part of what we are getting from them is going to go to this island. That is where we are losing on vision. The same way we are paying taxes on gasoline, but they're not putting it into the roads and so you have potholes, et cetera, et cetera. We are making money because Club Med came there because there's room taxes. What we need is responsible government. That is what I'm saying. That is what the problem is.
Paul, what you're saying something
I
here.
want to say that,
Mhm.
even if you look at in the city of Miami, right? Whenever there's a development there, the person who is investing is responsible to pay for all of the infrastructure that will come
Okay.
according to the development.
Mhm.
So in other words, you bring your Club Med to Miami, and if it means then that now we have to allocate rooms or certainly ambulances, you have to partake in it. You must.
Yeah.
Because
That's a
for
part
me,
of that's a
in
part of the
conflict for
system.
me, see, for example,
That is not factual.
it is factual.
In terms of infrastructure, in terms of roads
in
or
Miami,
sewage needs, etc., electricity needs, etc., you will contribute to. But to say that they have to buy ambulances because they're coming in,
They have to buy ambulances. No.
I'm saying that in a developing country like the Bahamas, for example, in Bimini, when they had a fire there, and I was astounded by it.
Yes.
I said, "There's no fire engine in this place," but they have a hotel there, a big hotel,
Yes.
big development there,
Mhm.
and there's not these things.
Nothing,
And so I'm
nothing.
saying that,
Mhm.
listen, if there's a vision to say that if you want to come here, here's what is necessary. We need these things. You have to look at it's the Bahamas. Doesn't matter what
That
you
could
want
be
to say
that
about
could
it.
be a
The
part of
Bahamas is
the
a
heads of
third
agreement.
world country.
That could be a
It's
part of the
third
heads of
world country.
Paul. That could be a part of the heads of agreement. That's all it
It
is.
should be. This has
Mhm.
nothing to do with the they buying us something. When you set up shop, these are the basic necessities that are needed to help establish your
We've got
development.
calls.
And it's the same thing with Bimini.
let's-
You need to see the healthcare system with Bimini with all that's happening over there.
let's go to the live lines. Good afternoon, caller. How are you? Welcome to the last word. All is well.
good day.
Steve, let me ask you a personal question, Steve. If you was running your own business, right, and your business was making X amount of dollars and it was prospering under your rules, then you relinquish power to someone to manage your company, your business or whatever, and start to go in a deficit. How long will it take you before you fire them?
I'll fire them kind of like quickly, and so I could get out of that tumble that we'll be in.
Exactly. This is simple art and subtraction. We are making billions of dollars. We have more than enough money to do everything we so put our minds to. The problem we have is that other people have plans for the money. So when Dr. Minutes raised the travel budget for himself, the PLC went haywire.
Hmm.
But the minute Brave Davis went, he increased it by $4+ million. So the money is there. We have so many things that we are wasting money on.
You're washed in money.
Yes, how is it that we do not own our own government agency buildings? Why are we still renting?
That's a very good question.
Immigration buildings?
Very good question.
Why are we still renting these buildings?
Yeah.
That's one thing.
It's incredible. It's incredible. See, certain people have to get certain things all the time because that's what they're doing under all the governments. That's what happens.
Exactly. And I want to say that just in case if anybody even try to make an excuse for these governments and when it comes to wastage and how much money we have. We are not broke. You ever hear to say to get people to believe that something doesn't work, nothing, you just make it a fair so if you want, let's just say if they want to sell they want to try sell BPL or BEC. They run it like it's not like it cannot be run by behavior and next video up the stairs. And when someone else gets it, it runs perfect.
My Lord.
So if you want to sell something, you just make it seem like it's value.
I got you, brother. Thanks for your call.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate your call. Lincoln Maine, he made a very good point. If you want to do some things and you just make people believe that nothing is happening for certain things, and Patelco and all these other places, that is a big picture. I even see where Fred mentioned all that complaining about places like Patelco and BPL and all those kinds of places like that.
Yeah, the biggest problem, without that, the biggest problem that we're having with the family islands is that no matter what, they're being neglected. And this is why we propose something called island states, where the money that is generated on the family islands will stay in the family islands. Those family islands whose economy is not small enough to sustain itself will be grouped with other family islands. You get a bigger grouping of islands. I gave an example of Harbor Island. They have a lot of billionaires that come there. Yeah, they still need a ambulance, they need a fire engine, et cetera, et cetera. So the idea of getting ambulances or fire engines donated, that has always happened. But for example, right now on Long Island, I just showed on my live last week, there's an ambulance that was donated to the island and the government got it in the bush. So the foreigners, it's in the bush, a red ambulance donated to the government by the foreigners living on the island, and the government has it literally parked up, not using it, in the bush. We have problems with fire engines that were donated. So it isn't that these foreign investors aren't willing to give, they do give these things. In Andres, the fire engine there is donated, and the person driving that is a volunteer. On Abaco, they have volunteers driving donated fire engines. So the issue that we were talking about earlier
It's a management thing.
it's not an issue. It's the government which keep going back to these poor managers. That is the problem. So they didn't even have to pay for it, and they can't keep them on the road. And so this is where you have a problem. So island states will be a good solution to this problem. Harbor Island, for example, sends $30 million to Nassau every single year. And do they get back? $380,000. That's not even 1%. All right, of the money that they generate through taxes. That is ridiculous. How can they build up their economy? They shouldn't be begging Nassau for money to build up their economy. They should be paying a royalty to the central government the way they do it in China or in other nations, similar in Canada, etc. They should be given a percentage of what they make to the central government to deal with central affairs, but their money should be staying with them. They should decide what happens with their money. And I guarantee you, you wouldn't have that problem, because if the local people are deciding what needs to be done with the money, they're going to say, we need an ambulance. They will have an ambulance. We need to stop having to depend on a politician in Nassau to give you something on your family island when they don't care about your family island, only when it's time for a vote.
Last word. How you doing today?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mckinney.
All is well. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I have 4 points according to what I heard. The guest is speaking about. Your first point is the VAT. The solution to the problem with the VAT is it was written for small interest groups to benefit over the majority. If you read the act, you realize that they didn't do nothing that was supposed to be implemented in the VAT. The government's supposed to provide every registered agent a system that they can monitor from the back end, from the main system. That's inland. That never happened. So everyone is accounting on their own systems, which provides, I guess, issues in terms of accountability, how much money actually was collected, how much money actually was made, and then understanding how VAT is impacted. When cost of goods go up, VAT goes up. If cost of goods go down, VAT increases. Say it increases through VAT. That's how that accumulates then the amount. In the act, it's written that where merchants get 100% refund, consumers get 0. Merchants are allowed to hold the money for X amount of days, which they could utilize it, put on their personal account. So when money is collected from super value, it doesn't go to our inland account. It goes to a super value account. That is then in savings. That is every day. So every day super value gets credit worthiness to his business because he's collecting money that is sitting there. So he can do whatever he wants to do it once he puts it back in the time it's supposed to be disbursed or submitted, collected. Let's talk about the budget. The reason is the budget is only based on forecasts and data. After the budget is passed, it is never updated. Information is never kept in real time. So, for example, we don't even know how much money is actually spent from since budget was passed in July to now because no agency has given us a real-time account of everyday spending. So it's like the accounting department, every agency, ministry is on vacation because they're not doing their jobs. They're responsible for giving daily accounting of money spent and monies received. That's the accounting department. They're not doing their job. I want to fire them all. Thirdly, the state-owned enterprises. In the newspaper, it was recorded from Standards and Poor's that they account for 10% of our budget, which is 2 billion, 3 billion. So whatever our budget is for that year, the state.
Go ahead. Listen.
State-owned enterprises such as SPDC, Venture Capital Fund, all these things that are put together, they account for a certain amount of budget. So the budget right now is 2.1 billion. When you take it, 15% of that, that's how much allocated for state-owned operation. Now the problem is you're not necessarily saying that money that's allocated is being spent on state-owned enterprises operation. If you look, for example, SBDC, if you go to the website, there are 3 years of financial reporting. I went to see Hakeem Tax. I don't call him Hakidas. I call him Hakeem Tax because he's the one that's taxing you on the hell. Hakeem Tax is responsible for SBDC. That information under his portfolio should have been provided publicly from their website. It is missing. I've been asking SBDC.
Yeah, but you're not the only one who's been asking. We've been asking all of them, even the consultants in that particular ministry, to gather the information and to talk with the Bahamian people and to have a fireside chat, if they will, about the finances of this country.
So that's fine. Now, the last point, foreign direct investment. What's supposed to be a tripartite agreement between a foreigner, the government as the middleman, and the people. What you find is the government removes the people's interest and put their self-interest privately there. So if you look at the shareholders listing of most of these foreign businesses, you will find the majority of the parliamentarian, past and present names in the holder. You'll even find that the executive employees as shareholders in some of these boards and the private businesses. So I'm saying to you and my Bahamian people, October 4th is where we now show the government and those who want to work in the government outside or inside against the people's interest that we now need to full Parliament Square, regardless of what you represent. Because if you're poor right now, if you don't have $200 in your pocket, I have $200 in my pocket right now, Steve. If you don't have $200 in your pocket right now, you're joking.
I ain't got 300.
You're joking. You're joking because I was a $60 candidate and I have more money than the majority of people in the right now.
I got you. I appreciate your call, man. I hear what you're saying. Thank you kindly for your call.
Yes, my brother.
Appreciate it. That's the last word today. And yeah, so Paul Moss, Dr. Heavy Jackson, Lincoln Bean, you see what the nation is really all about right now. People are concerned about so many things, not only high prices, not only the taxation of things in the Bahamas, not only the price index on so many things are just out the window. I mean, we've got there's more things than those things for us to deal with. We have to really look at the bottom line on a number of things in this country. We talked about the ambulance, the fire trucks and all that kind of stuff. These are important things. The development of the family islands, the infrastructure developments of the Grand Baham and all those kinds of things. We've got to do some things and really get on the ball because we're just missing it. That's what I'm saying.
Steve, a major problem in our country, everyone, is the cost of electricity. That is
Yes.
major all around. That
You know,
determines a lot of things.
absolutely.
Okay? Healthcare is important. Costs to drive these systems are high. It's difficult to make it. So we've seen what 50 plus years of governance.
50.
And when I was in Costa Rica, and they said to me they're 100% solarized. Okay?
Yeah.
I just said to myself, I don't
We were supposed
understand
to
it.
be, we were supposed to be just like Costa Rica, you know.
Mhm.
They had the man who came here. Rudy King was the fella who brought the fella here. A PLB, Rudy King, brought him here, you know. And he said that we can solarize and talked about over the hill, all that kind of stuff he was talking about with small ship. Listen, and I saw where they gone and they're doing it. But we still in the background doing nothing at
But
all.
see,
And
yeah, the cost
nothing
of
is happening to us.
electricity is a major problem in our country and it affects us all. You cannot have manufacturing. It's hard to be in business if the cost of electricity is high. I just don't understand. Governments come and they go, but I understand, you know. It's only for a certain few and they're making all the money from it, so therefore nobody has the testicular fortitude
Mhm.
to say, you know what, enough is enough.
Never be.
We are going to do something different to help lower the cost of electricity. Because when we do that, that impacts everyone across the board.
What do you think has
People can do more. You're able to expand.
Mhm.
You know, it'll lower the cost of all money. Now, we don't even want to get into infrastructure because when you look too, you realize we're sinking. Okay, major problem. We look at our roads, infrastructure.
Tell me about it.
I mean, it's little to really sing and write home about. But the cost of electricity, that's a major issue in Bahamas, and yet to this day, we still cannot seem to get control of it.
How can we get, or why would we get in control of that if we keep voting for the people who are benefiting from it? If they are benefiting, I agree everything you said just now. I'm telling you what the problem is. I fully agree with you. The problem is if special interests own Focal, Sun Oil, and the companies that are now generating it, we will never have a solution because we as a people keep voting for these same people and they keep raping us. The cost of electricity in the Bahamas is not high, you know. It is the fuel surcharge. Who is making money from the fuel? All right. The cost of fuel went down by almost half since they started doing this rolling surcharge. The cost of fuel, because I trade, that's what I do. The cost of fuel went down by almost half. Yet our fuel surcharge went up triple. So it means that it has nothing to do with the actual cost of fuel.
That's
They
right.
were just raping us, knowing that we will do and say nothing about it, and we still go vote for them.
Thank you. We've got calls. Let me take this final call before we go into the break. Hot copy, how are you? I'm sorry, the last word. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Interesting conversation.
Yes.
I want to say good evening to Mr. Moore, Abby, and the good man in studio there, Mr. Lincoln Dean. I wanted to say, Steve, you know, what about the Freedom of Information Act?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like every government dance around that, and it seems like we can't go ahead with the Freedom of Information Act. Because if we do get the Freedom of Information Act, you know, nobody would have to wonder where the WAC money is gone or
That's what we think.
Right,
That's what we
because I
think.
mean, they still
But
don't
they're
report
not
whether
gonna.
they're
They,
not
look here.
report
Let's
whether we have that or not.
but
They
better
don't
still.
know.
Let's just take a look at the Disclosure Act. Let's take a look at the Disclosure Act. I mean, two people have reported so far, and this has been from March, from March, and
Yeah,
the two of them are senators. No one checks for these things because we don't stick on their case. No one has gone down and said, "Look here, we demand that you all go and disclose." You know, these fellows, man, they're not joking.
So do we have separation of power or whatever?
They're not joking, man. We're joking.
with our money.
Yeah.
You know, and I find that I conclude that the government really don't want to name people that benefit so much.
Mhm.
And the little that they want to be make people benefit from is not enough for us as a people to really survive on. I put it to you, Mr. McKinney,
Mm.
that looking at all of the problems we have in society today, if you see people finances are really the way they are, they're not thinking rationally. And what happens is that at the end of the day, it seems like they put us in this position where we are dependent on them, and they don't want to get us out of that position.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about the highlight increases and all of these different stuff, the average person can't afford to even begin to think clearly, because every time you look around, there's some bills that you can't even afford to pay.
Very true. Very true.
You want to be focused on these kind of issues.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's going to take, but I can tell you this. It can't be another 3 years going through this. People can't survive this for another 3 years. So something got to give.
I hear you.
I'm sure that's going to happen pretty soon. And I, like the other gentleman, would encourage people on October the 4th to come out. To come out in great numbers. Like people say, government.
So what are you going to say when you come out? See, what are you going to say when you come out? See, you got to come out. You got to come out with the kind of gusto to make a difference. I mean, that's what coming out means. If you're going to come out, you got to come out to make sure that you have a point that you're going to make, and it's going to be so profound that they cannot just play a game anymore.
We have to come out of our comfort zone and get more radical. A lot of people may not like to hear that. But, you know, we've been trying this for years, and we have not gotten anywhere. We've gone Bay Street, come back on Bay Street, and then, you know, everything remains the same. So we're going to have to step it up a little notch.
I got you.
We're going to have to do this to make the country, to put these people who run the country.
That's the opening of the parliament.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, we're having a protest, a demonstration during the opening of Parliament, because they took a break for a couple of different reasons. One of them is because of what transpired with Keith Bell.
I appreciate your call, sir.
And before I even said it, I want to say condolences to Keith Bell and his family on the loss of his wife. It's always tragic when someone loses a wife, especially at such a young age. But in any event, we will be out there to protest the criminal actions of Keith Bell. And I'm going, when I go live again on Tuesday, I'm going to outline in the penal code and in other codes where Keith Bell did break the law. We're hearing people say that he did not break the law because he did that action at a funeral. Okay, that's fine if you're saying that, but there's other laws that he did break, including obstruction.
We talking about 21 different laws that were broken.
And so he broke the law. So we're going out there. You cannot let that happen to a civil servant who just did the right thing. We always call for the right thing to be done, but a civil servant wrote the permanent secretary to say that what the minister is doing is against the law, it's wrong, it shouldn't happen, and she was victimized. She did the right thing. The deputy director also did the right thing. She stood up, and now both of them are being victimized. We cannot let them stand alone. We must come out. We also need to come out because of what's going on with these high light bills. We need to let the government know that we're not satisfied with paying heavy fuel surcharges when the price of oil has gone down. It has gone up again a little bit in the last couple of months, but since they put that in place, it went down almost by half. Come on, man, what are you trying to do to us? And so there's a lot of things that we need to stand up for. We need to come out and let them know that we are not satisfied. We're not going to pretend that everything is hunky-dory. You're not going to tell us that 8 million tourists are coming here when 80% of them don't even come off the ship and say that we're doing good because of that. We need change in this country.
All right. And the lady who Mr. Bain was talking about just now, her name is Clara Bell. She's the wife of Minister Keith Bell, who is in charge of housing, and she passed this morning in hospital, and we send him and the entire family our sincere condolences, and we say that may Clara Bell rest in peace at this particular time. And yes, because this is a hard time for Mr. Bell, I would believe. And that's his wife. And yes, we should feel some sympathy for him And we acknowledge that sympathy at this particular time because Clara Bell was his beautiful wife, and she's gone home now. And so we respect that and we understand that. And so for my own good, he is off the table for at least this week for sure. You know, we're not talking about him. We're going to try to let him just to heal himself and to feel better about things in the Bahamas at this particular time. Now, we're looking at the time. It's 5 minutes past 7 o'clock. I want to run to a break so we can play our music and get together on that break, and we'll play some commercials, and we'll come back and we'll wrap things up here today with Paul Moss, Abby Jackson, Lincoln Bean. We make the roundtable up today right here on The Last Word. This is The Last Word on this Sunday, September the 24th, 2023. We'll be back in just a minute.
Good afternoon, everybody. I will not have my special usual show today on Sunday. I'm going to go live on Tuesday at 8 p.m. We got a lot to cover on Tuesday at 8 p.m. We have to outline all of these crimes that Pete Bell has committed. We have to talk about our carbon credits. I have to lay it on the table for people to understand. Some people don't understand the carbon credits. The fact of the matter is, we shouldn't be talking about anything else in this country right now when we know our carbon credits is worth $156 billion. We got to be, I mean, the simplest people on earth to not see that as an urgent matter. Um, and so there's a couple other matters that we have to talk about on Tuesday. All right, so the mic is muted intentionally because we're still in the studio. But as soon as we come back from commercial break, we'll turn the mic back on.
Welcome back to the last word here on this Sunday, the 24th of September, 2023. I've got Lincoln Bean with me today, live here on the show. Paul Moss is also here live on the show. And Dr. Debbie Jackson is also here on the show live with us today. We're expecting, anticipating Darwin is going to be here next week along with our team. And yes, we are here to analyze things that's been happening here in the country on the last word, because this is a political show. That's what we want to do. We want to try to help you understand there's something deeper than just a regular talk show formats on the air. And these are something. This is something that we want to really try to cultivate and to make you more aware as to what's really going on. So you're hearing from people who are experts in the field, and they have their own history of their political careers. Everyone, even though Dr. Evie may not have been ever in politics, Paul has been in politics, like I have been in politics. Paul was in politics now as an independent for some time. He also tried his time with the PLP some years ago. And of course, Lincoln Bean has been around for a long time. He's tried his hand with the FNM, not the PLP, FNM. That didn't work out so well. And he is now in charge of his own party and that kind of stuff here, the COI, the Coalition for Independence, right? And that's what he's been all about. He's been really raising some serious eyebrows. And he's been making people understand that it's got to be a better way. And that's one of the reasons why he is also featured on this particular show at this time, so that we can help to analyze. And we want to see if we can also get on this show somebody from the Michael Pintard camp, simply because of the fact that they ought to be part of the opposition and they ought to be represented. We've been trying to get them, but they have not come.
Tell Pintard come. Tell him I'm here. I'm waiting.
Yeah, I told Pintard a long time that I wanted him to be on the show. Dr. Dwayne Sands has been there a couple of times, but the fact is they need to have somebody who represents. I don't want people to think that we're just not checking for them. We are checking for everyone. That's what we want to do. We want to represent everyone here around the table so that we can have their own views and express their own views about what's going on in the country. It's going to only add to the whole debate of what we're dealing with. But if people don't want to come, then there's nothing that I can do. But they must, in fact, get involved, because time longer than rope. That's right. And the time coming, time ain't good. Time coming. And they're going to need all the help they can get to do a number of things in the country these days. Lincoln Bean, you've been the center of attention by some in the public domain. Some say you are a hero, as well. You are nothing but a villain. And are you misunderstood? And how so?
Everyone in the history of the world who wanted to make change has been misunderstood, because change is hardly understood because it is different than the status quo you've been used to. So you're definitely going to be misunderstood. I expect to be misunderstood, and I have no problem with being misunderstood. Martin Luther King said he was misunderstood, so was Mahatma Gandhi. I have no problem with that. I have one ambition at this time, and the Bahamian people benefit from what is ours. And Bahamians first. I hate living in a country where it feels nothing works. We don't have any area of this country that works properly, that we can really be proud of. Recently, where the electricity went off 3 times, wildlife, we have water issues in this country, potholes, that need fixing in this country. The healthcare system is dismal. And so, education. You look at every area of the country, and it's like, come on, man. It's like, seriously, we can't do better. And then someone will bring up that there's other countries that are doing worse than us. Look at Haiti. And they'll name some African nations or something and said we should be grateful. Like, come on, man. We should be bragging about the 3rd richest economy in the hemisphere, which is not true. I don't know why people keep saying that. We're in the mouth of America, but we're not asking for more. Yes, Steve, I will be misunderstood because I'm fighting for Bahamians. I could be myself right now. I could be doing my own thing right now. But but I see where we have an opportunity, and I'm going to fight for that. And lastly, Steve, when you talk a lot, there's a lot for people to misunderstand.
No question.
And so I am out there, unlike the other leaders, I am out there every Sunday, every Saturday, and doing other interviews, allowing the people to be able to question and poke holes in one. We're here to answer their questions.
Understood. Paul Morris, we've been having a whole lot of discussion in recent times about carbon credits and the rest of it, the seagrasses of the Bahamas, and how they're going to put things, a new beginning of the atmosphere for those big jet liners and whatnot, all the emissions and the rest of it that's now in the air. There's a lot of money that's been valued on this carbon credits thing. It's called about $156 billion is what they're looking at to get this whole thing going. And we will just have a real surplus of monies now, because you think that we're watching this now with just the value added tax thing. But if they bring about this carbon credits thing, we can really be doing some serious damage for this country as far as income is concerned. I mean, I say damage, I'm talking about good damage, to the point where we are able to pay our bills and do things in this country. I don't know much about this carbon credit. Did you get to look at this for instance, and look at it? And because people have been saying a number of things that you know, there should be much more be said about carbon credits in the Bahamas by the leader in charge of carbon credits, and that's Prime Minister Brave Davis. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking on this whole matter of carbon credits?
I will hearken to my brothers for the full beliefs because I do not believe that we're going to see any success with it.
No.
No, I do not think so. I have a regard for what is going on in the world today, where you have nations who are big users, causing the
Emissions,
greenhouse gases to
Mhm.
really affect the world environment. They're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. It's all talk. It's all talk.
I mean, they flamming the Bahamas.
They're flamming us. You talk about $156 billion. Think about that number.
Yeah, but I mean, Brave Davis believes that this is going to happen. This is a part of his climate change theory.
Listen, it's all, like I say, it's what a fool believes. I do not believe it. Others may believe it, but I don't.
So that's just a pipe dream.
Let's look at it. Let's look at what China is doing. China, they say, is emitting more greenhouse gases than all of the developed nations combined. What are they doing?
Nothing.
They're depending on they're using it to depend on their economy, to help their economy to prosper by having more.
So the world is going to be dirty.
Yeah,
that's it.
No, I think you're misunderstanding carbon.
I'm not misunderstanding it.
I'm not
carbon I'm telling you what I believe. You may believe what you believe, but I don't.
Yeah, but I said my opinion is that you are misunderstanding the carbon credits market to say that won't do it because they want to pollute. The country you listed already has a carbon trading market. There is an Asian market for carbon trading. China is participating with it. Hold on, and there is cap and trade right now in China.
Who is getting the money?
The money is on the open market. That's like saying who is getting the money from the stock market.
Yeah, who's getting it? Who's getting it? Which country's getting it?
Different persons who choose to trade, different countries are getting it, different companies are getting it.
Name for me.
All right?
Name for me.
Different countries are trading on the market. Some of them are European countries.
Name them for me.
Europe.
Europe is not a country. But
no, Europe is not a country. I was giving you an example of Europe. You know what Europe is, and you know it has many countries.
That's what I'm saying.
And so
in the country for
Germany. There are persons in Germany benefiting. There are persons in France benefiting. And guess what? That's because it's being traded on the market. The persons who should be benefiting is countries like Jamaica, countries like the Bahamas, Barbados, who are being affected. But because we are so backwards and see, they've kept us down to where we can't even legally trade on the stock exchanges around the world. So we don't have this kind of sophistication to understand that there's a carbon trading market where anyone can participate in that market. All right, California, not only countries benefit from it, there are companies. There are companies all over China and all over Europe who participate in the carbon trading market right now to the tune of $10 billion in the Asian market. All right. California is participating in this market. All right. Asia, the carbon credits in Asia, in Europe is worth about $40 right now. Sorry, I said the wrong thing. $90 right now. It's about that in California. So there is major trading going on. It's just that we're always backwards. We're always last to see certain things. We can benefit because we can contribute to this. There's cap and trade going on in Europe right now. In fact, you should have traveled to Europe. They have been strict with certain things since I was there in law school. You have to pay emissions tax to drive downtown in London. All right, you got to stop and go somewhere and buy and pay for a ticket to go downtown. A lot of European countries are strict, and that's why the market there is so valuable. All right, and that was, what was that? More than 10 years ago. That was from 2008. I was driving in London in law school, and you had to go and buy and pay to drive downtown because of the emissions that you would do, and that now can go into a market because they have a market for this whole thing. The value is $156 billion. It's our job to monetize it. All of those companies that are being restricted by cap and trade all over China. All right, and I manufactured in China, so I know what I'm talking about. All right, 2 factories. All of those companies that are manufacturing, by law, they can only put a certain amount of carbon, which they must monitor, into the atmosphere. If you go over that, then you must buy the credit from somewhere else or pay a huge penalty. You don't have to buy the credit, but you have to pay a huge penalty that would be prohibitive. It's like a fine. So it's cheaper for you to just buy a carbon credit from a third world country. But the third world countries have been so backwards that they have delayed going into it because them and their leaders don't understand it.
Wow. Dr. Abby,
I too, like Paul, believes
it's not
this
going anywhere.
may be set up. We're a smaller country. We're not going to see that happen in the next decade. Maybe the decades after that, we'll be gone. Lincoln may still be here, still talking about his theory, and hopefully he sees it come to fruition. But for me, then the issues, we have real issues in this country that we need to deal with. Okay, we need to lower the cost of electricity. That's a major issue.
What?
We need to improve our infrastructure. Okay, the monies that we're making now, that's here. I ain't talking about carbon down the road. I'm talking about what we have now. We need to be utilizing that to make a difference in our country.
Right. Yes,
now, my grandchildren down the road, they could probably think carbon and think whatever and so on and so forth. But for me right now, let's deal with the issue at hand of today.
I agree, but I gotta say this to her. Those things that are the issues can be solved by the carbon credit regime, and that's the reason that it was put in place.
That's question.
So, for example, if a big factory in China wants to go over their cap, they can take a certain amount of money, buy us a solar plant, a solar electric plant in the Bahamas, and they will get the carbon credits to be able to continue doing what they have to do.
That's the other
And so
thing,
that
Lincoln,
solves.
we have to be careful of.
Mhm.
Because China is the big man now that's doing all these things.
Very
We sell ourselves again to China.
I
just to
gave
get a
you
solar
an
plant. No, I'm just saying, if they're the major contributors who polluting the environment,
Mhm.
and therefore they want to buy carbon. So yeah, they raid these third world countries because they realize we don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to benefit.
You're misunderstanding how this works.
No, I'm not misunderstanding. All I'm saying to you is, unless we are in agreement with other major countries and in discussion whereby everyone's going to see the benefit in this in the long run, don't come tell me go buy from third world countries or do this and that. I don't want to see that happen in
But
my
that's,
town.
that's what Brave Davis is saying.
No,
Okay.
this
Okay.
is the ignorance that we have to go against. I
Well,
don't know
well,
if
you can call
have
it
you,
ignorance,
have you
whatever you
studied
want to
carbon
call
credits?
it.
Because you clearly
Just a
haven't.
little, just a little. But see, to me,
That's the problem.
that's not the issue for the day right now, Lincoln.
All right, listen to what the issue is,
Okay.
Evie. Evie, listen to what the issue is. The
You
issue
can
is,
buy your
hold
carbon
on,
credit
listen
or
to what
sell
I'm
it or
saying.
do whatever. All I'm saying is the
You're not-
monies that we have in our country and that we're benefiting from today, let's use that to make a difference in
That's
our
good.
country
Now, Evie,
Okay.
Evie,
Go ahead.
listen to what I'm saying. We have a problem with electricity. It has happened in other countries like the Philippines, etc. Big companies, countries, etc. in Europe, if you don't like China or wherever you want, California, they can contribute to any carbon initiative in your country, and they would get the credit for it. You would not be putting those carbons into the air anymore because of how they contributed to you. So it actually helps. So, for example, if a big factory in Germany, for example, reach their cap, or in England, they can then say, okay, we're gonna go over by $60 million. Let's get $60 million worth of carbon credit from the Bahamas by buying them a solar power plant that's going to give them 100 megawatts of power, which is half of our needs. It has been done in other countries. This isn't a pie in the sky. It's being done right now, but we always so last and backwards. Um, now we have a power plant that reduces the cost of our electricity. A lot of the problems that we're talking about is solved. All we need is vision to go ahead and understand these things and try these things.
And then the other thing too, though, like when we
Mhm.
think of where we located in terms of being in a hurricane belt, okay, we could say, oh, they could come in here and set up this and set up that. That's fine and good. Maintenance of these things. We're under hurricane threat. We're under
So many
threat
things.
for water.
So many things.
Yes,
This is
you
a
know,
great point.
and
I'm glad you brought that up.
And so, come on, all and sundry needs to be to the table to discuss and to say, will this benefit us in the long run, or how is this going to benefit us in the long run?
Evie, this
And
is how
so
it
on
benefits
and so
us.
forth. But you know, to hear, okay, the prime minister going to run off here and he trying to do this, or your party coming along and say, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and this is gonna solve the problem. I don't see it.
Paul said it earlier.
Hold on.
Paul said,
No, but
he don't believe any of this is going to happen.
Right, but let me listen. Yeah, they didn't believe we was gonna have independence either. All right, but let me tell you, a lot of Bahamians did it. That's none. I wasn't there. I wasn't born yet. No, but this is important that she brought up, and I have to answer that. Let me just answer this, Steve. You talked about we're in the hurricane belt. We have a hurricane shelter, not one. There's 2 years into this administration. That is an abject failure. Knowing that we're in a hurricane belt. Let me tell you what carbon credits would have done. Carbon credits would have, the money we made from carbon credits would have allowed us to build hurricane shelters on our islands so that the effects from hurricane, from the pollution, pays to protect our people. All right, it builds us the seawalls that we need. It gives us the equipment, etc., that we need. In terms of maintenance, when they now build us that solar power plant, we get carbon credits from that plant every single month. That can now be traded, and that pays for the staff fees. It pays for everything else that we need, and it pays for maintenance, even maintenance of our schools, etc., etc.
All right.
So not just do they give us the plant, we make the carbon credits from the plant.
That's it. That's it. I've got one more call for the day, and we're going to have to call it a day. Hard copy. Oh, sorry, the last word. How you doing?
Good evening, Steve.
Yeah, I'm going to get it right one of these days. How you doing? Yes, all is well.
Good evening to your panel.
Good evening.
Presentation. I'm going to be extremely brief. I listened to the entire show. I just want to draw your attention to Steve's introduction. You touched on everything except one. When Steve started his introduction, he talked about the government, three institutions: the government, the church, and the businesses. You have not mentioned anything about the church in your conversation. So I just want to draw that to your attention. I don't know where the church factors into this or how you factor into it, but as you end, maybe you want to consider that. Just leave that as my contribution. other thing I want to say is this. I'm reminded, for the most part, especially about the politicians in particular, I'm reminded of something I heard at a seminar. U.S. congressman said that politicians, they use other people's money, and other people's money, they use it. They're carefree. This statement, I never forgot it. They're carefree with other people's money
Very true.
and careful with their own money. In other words, it's saying that politicians love other people's money. So I'll just leave you with that thought, and then you can conclude with that.
Thank you very kindly. Appreciate it. Yeah, well, you know, we did talk about the church being a part of an active part of it because we think that the church is a moral gatekeeper on a number of these things, and the people have been crying so much about how poor they are, they can't afford things in the food store, and the church must step up and say something to the government and say, listen, we advise that this thing put a stop to this whole thing. See what can happen. That's what I was talking about from the church point of view.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
but the church should be doing what it's called to do, preach the gospel.
Okay. Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, people need to be saved.
Yes.
And we're going to leave all of this behind one day. As we sit here and we try
In the
to,
meantime, people need to be comfortable
I
and
agree,
afford living
but
in this
see,
country.
that is so important. The church needs to continue to be that voice. Now, the churches are out there helping as best they can in communities and providing needs as best and as much as possible. But the church can't direct the government. We got to pray for the government.
Yes.
Okay? That's what we're called to do. Pray for our leaders.
Our church has a lot of influence on the government.
Some of these churches, not all.
No, the
I know you got
the Catholic Church has some influence, but
Some, Steve,
but
not all.
but a lot of these Baptist churches have influence. Come on, Deb, baby, you know better than that.
I said some, Steve. I ain't calling no denomination.
But all I'm saying to you, he called me. He said Catholic.
There you
But
go.
the point is this: yes, they do have a say, but they have a say on a lot of things with immigration and stuff like that. I know that.
I'm sure
But
they do.
the point is this: that the church must be playing a more active role in community development, and that means serving the whole man through making sure that things happen for them on the ground.
Steve, that's happening.
No, it's not
Yes,
happening.
I know of it
It's
happening.
not happening.
Steve, it's happening. In a
It's
lot
not
of
happening.
churches, it is happening on a regular
disagree on that.
basis. No, Steve, it's happening. Believe it. It's happening.
It's happening.
Yes, churches are helping out
It's
all
not for
around.
churches to come out there and boast about what they're doing.
No,
They just do it.
they do it. I'm telling you, Steve. I'm telling you. My church
Okay.
alone, we're very active in our community, and even all the churches around us. So churches are doing it, but the church should stick to its mandate: preach the gospel, because people need to be saved.
All right, no problems. Anybody else who want to debunk some things that were said? Paul, what your position is on this whole carbon credits thing? We know what Lincoln's position is on it. It's a very strong position, by the way. And Dr. Debbie, you've been very, very key on this whole thing about the stuff with as far as healthcare and the rest of it with Bahamas is concerned. We got a lot of work to do, friends. There's no question about it. Lots of work to do in this country, and we have to get ready to start that work in earnest. The government of the Bahamas now is getting ready to go into their not the elections, but the sessions on October 4th. All right, and we're hoping that when they go there, they are going to come up with a new program that's going to really speak to issues that involves the nation as a whole, issues that people really want to hear happen in this time and place. And that is only going to happen if they put their shoulders to the wheel, decide that this is what we have to do today. We've got to get rid of all this other stuff and really get serious about the business of running the country, of this country, of the Bahamas. And that's what I'm hoping that happens on October 4th. We don't know what Lincoln, I'm not going to be saying with that, but maybe you're wishing for that too, right?
There's going to be a new legislative agenda, so it'll be interesting what they decide to do in terms of their manifesto. Because according to them, they're working in terms of the manifesto.
All right. Well, that's our show here for the day on the last word for this Sunday, the 24th of September. Lincoln Bain has been a special guest of mine, Moss, and of course, Dr. Ebby Jackson, who have all come together today to bring you this edition of The Last Word on this Sunday. We hope that you enjoyed this, and we will be back again next week, Sunday. Same time, same place, same station, only on Peace 107.5 FM for Last Word. And Lincoln, you got most of the last word in today. We'll see what happens next week. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good evening, everybody who is tuning in. I'm going to continue to broadcast for a minute as I drive, as I get into my vehicle. I remember that on October 4th, we had Parliament uh, to let the government know they're gonna sit down while they abuse civil servants and while they continue to rape this nation, while they increase dramatically on us, while they ball and party like rock stars. Hope everyone can still hear me. Just give me a sec to get. All right, good night. Give me a sec to try to get in the vehicle. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, you know just witness something that is very concerning to me is that it's a lot of the people who call themselves educated and the so-called intelligentsia of this country that don't study carbon credits and don't know what's going on, and they're the reason we're so backwards. And sometimes you wonder about this stuff. You wonder how could our politicians be so backwards and not know what's going on in the world. But the people who should be the most educated are the people who are sometimes the most lost. They only know whatever they're educated in, whatever they learned in school. That's all they know, and that's a shame. It shocked me that Paul Moss clearly didn't know what carbon credits is. He said China isn't going to do it because they pollute. That's why they're going to do it. That was shocking for me to actually witness. And there are a lot of people who aren't paying attention. The government is taking advantage of that, and that's why they're going to steal the carbon credits, because the people who should be studying this and knowing what's going on, the intelligentsia of this country, they're not paying attention. And so that's how we're being robbed and raped right now, because the people who should be the guardians of what's going on, they're lost. And it's the common man right now who is doing what they can to make sure that we get what belongs to us. You know, this is beyond unacceptable. That Bahamians are not paying good enough attention to this. $156 billion is transformative for this entire region. It could, if we jump in this early, and we have to jump in before our neighbors do. We can't wait till they're doing the same thing we're doing. We have to jump in and get in and make the changes that need to happen. You know, it is scientifically proven now that our seagrass is worth $156 billion. And you're going to tell me that you're not going to try to explore to see what we can get out of that? Like, not even explore it. Even if you think that nothing's going to come out of this. This is certified, scientifically proven by scientists working along, and researchers working along with the University of Michigan, who was heading this stuff up, that our seagrass is worth $156 billion in the carbon credits market. And we can talk, but we can sit down and just worry about the taxes we collecting right now. Like, that is so, I have to be gentle. All right. But ladies and gentlemen, only one country we got, and we got to sign up for this. For the remnant, for those who are awake, wake your family members, talk to them, and let's see what change we can make. Because if these people win this election again, this country is gone. So just to update you again, we have a tea party. I'm going to be special guest speaker at the tea party in Grand Bahama. I don't have details with me as I'm driving, but it's going to be on the 30th. So there's a tea party on the 30th. That is Saturday. This coming Saturday, there's a tea party that we have in Grand Bahama. I'm going to post the flyer. Please spread the word for October 4th. Don't come by yourself. Bring some persons with you. Let's go to visit our House of Assembly. Let's let them see that we're serious about this country and what's happening in this country. And also just a reminder that we have our convention is coming up, and so it's two sessions. One session is from 10. The morning session is from 10 in the morning. So if you're a delegate, you'll be receiving an email or a text, etc., giving you your credentials. You're going to get digital credentials, scanning codes. You can scan it when you reach there because, you know, this party is high-tech. This 21st century body. And also at 6 p.m. is when we want everyone to come out. Everyone, whether you're a delegate or not, everyone be there at 6 p.m. It's going to be an amazing night. It's going to be a fun-filled night. We're going to have entertainment. We're going to have speakers. So make sure you are there so that you can see and experience this new Bahamas. All right. I was in a WhatsApp group today as I try to find time every so often to go in WhatsApp groups and communicate with the general public because we're trying to get the message out there to the public and open myself to be able to be questioned by the general public. I was in a WhatsApp group and Louis Georges came in there and he was asking me, you know, who we're basically, we had a good exchange. Who are we going to sell the natural resources to? And does that mean it's going to take longer, et cetera, et cetera? There's some people who have this concern that, oh, people already have the contract for the natural resources. So how are we going to get that contract from them? You can't just break a contract and you know, no one has the exclusive on any natural resource. There's no one who is the only person who can make salt in the Bahamas. No one who is the only person who can mine for sand in the Bahamas or limestone or any natural resource that we have. They are allowed to do it. They lease an area, they get a license to do it, and they lease an area where they do it in that area. Someone else can set up shop right next to them. And so it's not about who have a contract and all that kind of stuff. Someone also said that, you know, most countries got sand and most countries got aragonite, so why should we make something from it? This is PLP is telling them to go put out there, people's head. Because other have sand too, and they just found oil. How many countries had oil before that? Yet they are now making an amazing amount of money from their oil, although they're not letting their people benefit. They're like Brave Davis. It doesn't matter how many people is doing it if it's needed. It doesn't matter. We We have sand. We have the majority of sand in this world, and the world needs sand. And so we have to be able to benefit from it. All right. Um, say that contract will break. Trust me, that was the way to see it. Listen, so I think that all of the persons who have contracts will be willing to renegotiate those contracts. Um, I got the documents, the contracts that I put out there from the persons who are in the industry. And so um, they feel that the government is wrong because they are not uh, uh, getting the money that's promised to them. So the $2 per ton, for example, from aragonite, they're not even collecting that. And so the miners were like, we're willing to pay our fair share. That's what we do around the world. But it's just that the Bahamian government doesn't care about what is supposed to go to the people. They only care about what goes in their pockets, and that's where the problem comes in. And so, um, uh, so that's what we have to fix. All right. So again, let me see. I can take one or two. I can take a couple questions. I can take a couple questions, but if it moves too fast, I won't be able to deal with it. Let me see. Let me see if anyone has any questions that you or a family member had about this whole thing, about carbon credits, how it works. I'm going to do a whole live on carbon credits. I'm going to sit down and show you exactly how this thing works, explain it properly to persons who don't understand it, because even the intelligence here don't understand it in this country. All right, so I can only see one text at a time. So if the text is moved too fast, I won't be able to see the question. I can't take calls right now because I'm talking to you. So Louis George is Haitian. Be careful with him. Yeah, Louis George is one of the biggest problems in this country in the last 5 years. He is someone who has been benefiting from the rape and robbery of Haitians and from this nation. I don't have to be careful with him. I know exactly the nature of the beast. I've known him all my life. Uh, but he shouldn't be worried about those contracts. Hold on, I can't see the, the, the post. Let's see if we can get it up there. Okay, now y'all can see it, but I can't. Anyway, whatever that says, I can't see it. I'm sorry. Let's see if I can expand it. Okay, yeah. He shouldn't be worried about those contracts. He should be finding a place in Haiti to live when him and his crew gets. Okay, I can't see the bottom of it. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Oh, Lord, I don't know how to get back. Lord, I'm stuck on the screen. Okay, what do we do? Okay, we're back. All right, so all right, so get rid of that. Um, yeah, Luby should have a nice place in Haiti right now because he's gonna need it in short order. Um, they're complaining about these MPs who were not disclosing. But let me just make this clear for you. There's no statute bar on that disclosure law. And so if those MPs didn't disclose, then there's certain ramifications so that they can lose all their property in the Bahamas. They can lose everything that they didn't disclose, every business, every piece of property, everything that they didn't disclose, they actually forfeit to the government. So let them carry on. If you want them to give accounts, just go fund the Bahamas. As simple as that. All right. See if I can see anything else on there. Okay, look like I can see a question or something. Let me see. It says so. Okay, can't see it. Can't see it. Lincoln Bay. Stop reading. Well, she said stop reading and driving and just talk, please. I'm not driving. I'm at a standstill actually. All right, so I actually pull on the side of the road. So you kind of I pull on the side of the road. All right. So Yeah, live smarter than that. Live smarter than that. All right, so I'll end it right there for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Please, if you're in Grand Bahama, please support the Tea Party. I guess you can look at our COI page, and I'll ask them to post it on my page. Um, uh, we see that what's his name, Fred Mitchell, responded to our chairman in his usual nasty way. And that's all that they're doing right now. They're trying to avoid the real discussions in this country and keep us dumb. And even the intellectuals, some of them, when it comes to everyday stuff, they're not as educated as you think they may be. All right. And this is a problem for our country when our intellectuals are backwards. All right. So you need to be careful on the side of the road. Man, I'm good. I'm good. I have an army with me. When you come to Elizabeth Estates, you're coming to Elizabeth Estates soon. You have the candidates for Elizabeth Estates. I think they've already started campaigning in Elizabeth Estates. We haven't announced them yet, but if you're on the ground in Elizabeth Estates, you're going to feel them soon. It's a prospective candidate, so none of us have been ratified yet. We're still investigating and vetting and all that kind of stuff. But Elizabeth Estates candidate is already on the ground. I think they had an event last week on the ground in Elizabeth. And so we're on the move. So there are people saying, oh, no, announce who your candidates are. Get you. No. Our candidates, some of them have started to touch the ground, and that's it. All right. You're coming back to Abaco in short order. We'll be back in Abaco. We have to win Abaco because we got to save Abaco. Abaco is in trouble, and Abaco is the second jewel of this Bahamas. The number one economy in the Bahamas, in short order in New Bahamas, is going to be Grand Bahama. All right. So Washington D.C. is the capital, like Nassau is the capital, but New York has a much bigger economy than D.C. right, and than Washington D.C. And so California has a much bigger economy than D.C. So Nassau is going to be the capital, but Grand Bahama is going to be the number one economy. Abaco is going to be the number two economy, despite what Abaco has gone through. And the number three economy is going to be Andros, all right, in the short term. All right, now those other economies, it's going to be up to them in order to build themselves. Once they have their island states, they're going to be able to to save all the islands. Yes, we are going to transform all the islands. We have a plan to transform all the islands. And the plan is going to attract people back to the islands. And we're going to invest in the islands. And the island state system is going to make that work. So initially, so you have some smaller islands that don't have their own economy that's big enough. So we'll pair them the same way for election. They'll have my island, turn it into one. So the island states will put some of these islands together. So 16 major occupied islands. And so we'll pair some of them together to make one state. Excuse me, for now, until they get to where they need to be. All right. But in terms of the plans that we're initially putting forward, you're going to see Grand Bahama rival Singapore. You're going to see Abaco. That's going to go to the next level, and Andros is going to be something to reckon with. All right. And so don't sleep. Exuma is my people. Long Island has a lot of potential, et cetera, et cetera. In terms of what's out there now. Now, there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens in the Southern Islands, the beautiful Southern Islands, Aucklands. You have so much potential for growth, but they're not using it properly. And so we're going to fix that. But anyway, I've been live for an hour and 45 minutes. I'm going to head out now because I don't want to talk to you all while I'm driving. And I can see your comments one at a time, but I can't really answer your questions because they're there. Let's come on Tuesday to learn about our carbon credits. Someone said, okay, Sombra, thank you so much, Sombra. As you stand in front of me so no one can touch me, they have to go through. Thank you so much. Die to Grand Bahama State. Both the FNM and PLP should never run for any political positions ever. Yeah, but I'm concerned not about them running. I'm concerned about the people who actually vote for them after all they've been through. Anyone who would wear a red shirt in Abaco or even a yellow shirt now after they sold the supply to BLP did, that should have gone to the people. I'm concerned. How could people betray themselves like that for a party? That's concerning to me. All right. So um, there's a lot we got to talk about. I'll save that for Tuesday. Um, we gotta take tomorrow off. We're gonna be back on Tuesday, and so we got a lot to talk about. All right. We have a member of parliament who a lady called me and she has some serious issues with him. Uh, what's his name? See if I can remember his name. Hmm. Leroy Major. It's a lady who has a legitimate complaint. Legitimate complaint. Leroy Major, you have until Tuesday. Now, we've already dealt with you with the Haitian import export company that you had in your yard, in the back of your yard, and in the crown land behind your yard that you was using for Haitian import export company. Um, and of course, you've removed it. You've removed everything from that yard after we've exposed it. But now you know there's a lady that has to do with well, the lady you were renting from. You're a major. You have till Tuesday, eh? Till Tuesday. Fix that. So if you're on this and you know Leroy Major, let him know you have until Tuesday. All right. So that's that. We have another person in the Asian community who wanted to come out and talk today and talk about what's really going on in the Asian community. The person is of Asian descent. They support us 1,000%, and they see the corruption. They hate it. And they was going to talk today, but I ended up on Steve's show. There's a lot going on. All right. So thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all on Saturday in Grand Bahama at the tea party. And I'll see you all on the 4th, where we're going to go to our house. If enough people come out, government change. Like, serious with that. If enough people don't come out, then we're going to make a statement. We're going to say we have to say, do what we have to do. And demand change in this country. Let them know we're not standing down. Lastly, pay up your dues. We have a convention coming up. If you want to donate to that, you can come to our office and donate. They're there from Tuesday to Friday at 11 to 5. Tuesday to Friday, 11 to 5. So they're going to be not open on Monday, but Tuesday to Friday, 11 to 5. You can come and you can donate. You can also go online to any of the let me put the link for some of these on here so you could get them. So this is one of the links here that you can go online. That's GoFundMe. And this is another link here. You're gonna see it in your chat. And so either you can scan one of these links or go to your chat. And you got to support the movement. Don't just tell us that you support us, you believe in us, tell us to hang on and this and that. You got to support the movement. If you want to see it happen, it can only happen if all of us come together and put up everything that we can to make this work. You have to make this work. Everything costs money to do. You can see what we're doing. You can see we're traveling. We are making this happen. We're organizing. We're structuring. We're having our convention. Please support what we're doing. So, though we're not like the PLP and FNM who've been raping and robbing and stealing from the Bahamian people for 50 years, and then still they have to raise money for their convention and et cetera, et cetera. I remember one time the FNM said they didn't have money for their convention. Remember when Minister was there? They didn't have money for their convention, right? Twice. And the PLP once canceled their convention because they didn't have money, and so did Ingram. I was on the Perry, and so did Ingram cancel the convention because of lack of funds. And these are the so-called major political parties. All right, and so likewise, we have to raise funds to do what we have to do. All right, so you gotta put your money where your mouth is, and let's get this done. All right, let's make this happen. So thank you all for tuning in. I'll see all of you on Tuesday unless something major happens, and then we'll be back to you even sooner. But thank you. God bless you. We love you. We're doing this fight because of you. All right. So see you later.